Hey there, welcome to the Nerd Chapel. Today we are talking about cooperation among the churches. Now, often in our churches, we focus on the church with a little c. And what I mean by this is we focus on what our one church wants to do or can do, or what our individual calling is that we feel. We don't really think about what is God's great purpose for His entire church throughout the entire world, and what is He doing in all these other places. And especially if that means recognizing churches of other traditions, we're not very good at that. You don't very often see a church from a charismatic viewpoint organizing events with a church from a Reformed viewpoint. And similarly, you don't very often see a United Methodist Church doing some sort of a service with a Russian Orthodox Church. We just don't do that very often. And we can be nice to each other, but we don't really cooperate, and sometimes we don't even help each other. This was starting to become an issue in the city of Corinth. And when Paul wrote a letter to them that we call 1 Corinthians, he had a lot to say about this issue. So let's look at 1 Corinthians 1, verses 10 through 13. I appeal to you, brothers, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another, so that there may be no divisions among you, and that you may be perfectly united in both mind and thought. My brothers, some from Chloe's household have informed me that there are quarrels among you. What I mean is this: one of you says, I follow Paul, another, I follow Apollos, another, I follow Cephas, and still another, I follow Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Were you baptized into the name of Paul? Now, this reminds me of Carcassonne a lot. You see, in Carcassonne, you have a tile laying game, and as you lay out your tiles, you will build roads, cities, farms, and other features. And as you do this, you are also sending out your meepos to claim these projects as yours. Now, player interaction might take several different forms in this. It can be competing, helping, cooperating. The most common thing is just for everyone to do their own. You can compete for projects so that only one person gets the points for a completed project. You can help each other with projects, or you can even cooperate on projects and each gain the points for the same project. Normally, everyone is against each other. And sometimes I've played it and people kind of helped each other. Very rarely have I ever seen people say, hey, let's complete the city together, and both gain the points. We don't really see that much. And we don't see that much happen in the church either, unfortunately. Now, only one person can have meepos in a particular connected project. However, you can build a separate project of the same type close by and link it in order to get your meeple into that project. Some churches act this way. They come into a city as a new plant or a new campus, and they just focus on what they can do. It's all about them and what they want, and they ignore what the other churches are doing or what God might want them to do cooperatively. We act as if we're all working for a different player. We're all meepos working for a particular way, but we forget we are all working for the same player. So, 1 Corinthians 3, verses 5 through 9, Paul says, what after all is Apollos? And what is Paul? Only servants through whom you came to believe, as the Lord has assigned to each his task. I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God made it grow. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything, but only God who makes it grow. The man who plants and the man who waters have one purpose, and each will be rewarded according to his own labor. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field and God's building. Now, on my turn, I can place my particular tile anywhere on the board as long as I follow the proper rules of placement. So grass connected with grass, road connected to road, etc. On my turn, I can choose, if I want, to place my piece over to someone else's feature and help them out a little bit. So maybe you should start praying for other churches. Just as you're driving by, say, hey God, please give this church wisdom, grant them strength, provide them with finances. Or if your church is doing a building project, maybe you could take some of your materials that are still in good shape and donate them to a church in need or to a new church plant. Now, there's one church I heard about that I think is down south that felt called to support the missions work in a particular country. And what they did is that instead of just adopting the missionaries from their own denomination, they adopted all of the missionaries in there who were following Christ. And how they made it work is that each growth group in the church adopted a different missionary and would send them encouragement notes, would pray for them, maybe would send them a small gift box every now and then. They all supported these missionaries, as these missionaries were all working toward one and the same goal, just as if they were all working on the same feature in Carcassonne. Now, 1 Corinthians 12, verses 12 through 20 says something about this. The body is a unit, though it is made up of many parts, and though all its parts are many, they form one body. So it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slave or free, and we are all given the same Spirit to drink. Now the body is made up of one part, not of one part, but of many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? And if the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has arranged the parts of the body, every one of them, just as He wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. So cooperation is so much closer to the heart of God than we ever think about. I remember a missions trip I went on to Croatia. Before the trip, a few weeks, we went up to my uncle's cabin to have a time of retreat and prayer and preparation and team building. While we were there, we met my uncle's dad, and he found something very interesting. He was following the Presbyterian Book of Prayer, and we were Wesleyans going on this trip. Well, it just happened this day, as we were having our retreat to prepare for our trip to Croatia, the Presbyterian Book of Prayer was praying for Croatia. So we were working together whether we wanted to or not. And in Carcassonne, if two players work on the same feature and each have meeples there, they both get the points. So how can we cooperate more fully? A few years ago, some churches around here came together for a big community service day. There were about 14 churches at this. And they all had people coming together and splitting up to do projects all over the community to help out. Within the last few years, we've seen around 18 or more churches come together to support a Christmas presentation that gives a glimpse into what it really would have been like that night in Bethlehem. And we had resources coming from all these congregations, but more importantly, we had people from all these congregations coming and cooperating together in unity. Now, I encourage you, please, support other churches and other Christ followers. Remember, when outsiders look at the church and they see us arguing and bickering and fighting over little dumb things, it really does not look good. We are told that we will be known by our love for each other. So let's act like it. We are called to work together as meeples of many colors for the most masterful player of all, Christ Himself. Thank you for joining me today at the Nerd Chapel. Please visit our Facebook site at facebook.com/nerdchapel or our blog at nerdchapel.blogspot.com. Have a great day.